All right, Keith, we've made it to another decade, 1990. I think I mentioned in the past that I can distinctly recall decades because there's momentous occasions in my life, and the momentous occasion that occurred in my life in 1990 was...
Two college radio DJs during the 90s, hosts Keith and Steve, helped expose bands like Nirvana, Pavement, and PJ Harvey. They went to shows, interviewed musicians, and reviewed albums for various zines and papers. They worked security at concerts, and once even did load-in for Phish. Now they're dads. Whether you want to explore lesser-known music or take a trip down memory lane, tune into the new Dad Rock. Join hosts Keith and Steve as they navigate the ages together, sharing their love of music across various eras and genres. Always well-intentioned, often well-informed, seldom boring. The new Dad Rock will expand your mind.
So I finished high school and also, by the way, started college. So I think of my most early college memories and, the end of high school, the very end of high school, that's a line in the sand.
Yeah, mine is 1991, so I guess we'll have to wait an episode or two.
Yeah.
But before we get into the 90s, what's something you've read or learned in the last couple of weeks or since we recorded?
Well, I think we have to go back and acknowledge our work we did in the 70s with what's going on with the Gizzard. So King Gizzard just... Look, I think it's a historical tour in their turn. They did a just over a month in the U.S., in the States, and a couple shows in Canada to make it an international tour. And they live streamed every set of the tour. So you got to see it. You got to experience it. They've put bootlegs out on Bandcamp so you can listen to it again and again. And they have really opened up. And, these are kids that grew up in the era of where everything is free. And they're basically putting everything out there. They just want you to hear their music. And they put on a fantastic tour. The good news is Leg 2 is coming up in November. They've got 3 more weeks starting on the West Coast. And they're going to work their way back to Miami. But, King Gizzard, I think some people are saying this is like the Phish 97 tour. It might be more like the Phish 94 tour where they just really reached a critical mass. But something special is happening with King Gizzard.
I agree. And having listened to possibly all their live shows since at least Philly, maybe a couple before that. Yeah, they're awesome. I actually like them so much more now than I used to. So I feel I wasn't even a fan before. I don't even know what happened. I don't know what I was talking about before. They're terrific, though. And I definitely know there's some songs I love so much, like Head On, Pill, Crumbling Castle. Even off their new album, I like that Antarctica song a lot. Like the new album, I didn't really get into it until I've seen them do each song live, and now I really, really like it. But The funny thing is, I feel that the Gizzard is like the OCs to me. It's like a band that I'd rather hear live and in the moment than a band I'm going to return to a specific album over and over again. So the live shows are perfect for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. And hearing the live versions or seeing them performed live, I think really opens it up. And I took a new appreciation for them. In fact, the album that I really got hooked on was Chunky Shrapnel, which is from their 2017 tour, I think. So that's the album that really hooked me. And now when I listen to them, you're right, except for when a new album comes out, I'll put on one of their shows, especially if I'm on a long drive. It's perfect to listen to a 2.5, 3 hour concert while you're driving and get into it. But like a lot of the quote unquote jam bands, like a lot of bands that excel in the live arena, their albums really come to life. And it's 100% true with their most recent.
Yeah, I'm actually just blown away by them right now. I like their personality a lot too. I think they're just a really good, hardworking band. Yeah. In fact, in 1990, what am I talking about? Like 2 years ago, they were, we're in 1990. I get it now. Yeah. No, in, 2 years ago, they were, either voted or listed as the 22nd hardest working band based on number of shows, number of countries, and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Well, they just did a tour for, I want to say it was only 5 weeks, but I think they did 28 shows in 35 days or something like that.
Yeah, it's only when they've gone to the West Coast that they have a day between a bunch of shows. Yeah, otherwise it was 5 or 6 in a row, which makes sense because I think their dads have really young kids. So, they want to get back. It's winter in Australia now. So it looks like they're taking a 6-week break and then they come back to do another 3 weeks and call it a day. But did you see their shows in Europe next year?
Yeah,
Are you coming with me?
They're not until May. I'm going to Europe because my daughter's studying abroad in the spring semester, but she'll be back by May. So I don't know. We'll see. TBD.
Dude, no, I have it still up. I'm thinking of getting tickets for the Bulgaria shows
Yeah.
because
You didn't even come up to the New York shows, but you're going to go to Bulgaria?
No, I mean, if you look at the venues they're playing, dude, they're playing like ancient amphitheaters.
They played the Forest Hills, the original U.S. Open happened there.
No, I'm talking.
This is a historic place,
dude. They're not playing Pompeii, but they're playing like Bulgaria's version of it or something. Like they're playing like on a hilltop in Athens. They're playing a prison in Lithuania. Like they're playing ridiculous places. So I'm kind of into the Bulgaria one.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely seem to prefer the outdoor venue. But another band that is amazing live and one of my all-time favorite bands to see, Ween, I don't think we're going to be able to see them live again.
Yeah, I got my refund. They sent me my refund. I think I found out about the refund before I found out they actually called off the show.
So Ween broke up, I want to say it was back in 2011. On the West Coast, Giner had a meltdown on stage. And then this past year, or just this past tour, back in August, I think it was, Diener kind of had a meltdown on the West Coast. And he's like, for my own health, I'm stepping away from touring. And given that they haven't put out a new album in, well over 15 years, I think this might be it.
Yeah.
Sadly. They're in their mid-50s.
I can only imagine the pressures of touring and all that stuff. I don't even like getting in the car anymore.
Yeah,
so especially it's gotta be hard.
Especially when you back home, it's fishing season, and you've got a fishing business, and you can just go off on your boat and catch some stripers.
Nice. Well, congratulations to Ween. It was a good run. We're sorry to see you go, but your music will live on forever.
Yeah, and they have hundreds of unreleased songs that I imagine that they could go back and polish off and maybe put a greatest hits Shinola Volume 2 out or call it something. But there is more music to be unearthed. But yeah, Ween. Let's pour one out for Ween.
Oh, damn, I'm inside. I shouldn't have poured one out. Dude, I bought so many tickets this summer that I got a little tired by the end. Like, not to lie, but not going to the Ween show wasn't the worst thing that happened to me because I just went to so many shows. I even sold my Peter Hook and the Light tickets at a loss. I mean, or at cost or whatever.
Remind the listener who Peter Hook is.
Isn't he the bassist from New Order and Joy Division before that? So the show would have been amazing. I saw the set list, and they started at 8 o'clock. But it was in Philadelphia on a Wednesday, the day my kids started school. Been working a bunch. I figured that I just needed a rest. My wife tonight is at PJ Harvey. I bought 2 tickets to that, and I gave her the tickets to take a friend because I'd rather be here with you, Steve. I have 21 Pilots tomorrow. I still have a lot of tickets. Yeah, PJ Harvey's a great show, but her last couple of albums have not agreed with me. And she is an artist that will, if her album has 14 songs on it, she'll play 11 or 12 of those songs and then I think
5 of her classics.
Yeah, no, this is just her. She does about an hour and 45 minutes, about 24 songs. And I think it's the new album and then a dozen other songs.
Yeah.
Speaking of new albums, some old bands put out new albums. Actually, these bands might have been around in 1990, but like Mercury Rev has a new album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to it once.
I mean, they've always had that almost Disney soundtrack quality to them and this childlike wonder. But Jonathan Donahue now sounds like a very aged man. I don't know exactly how old he is, but say he's about 60. He sounds at least that old, but still has that childlike wonder in his voice. He has a similar voice to me to Perry Farrell.
Yeah. But that's not even the problem with the songs. It's just that it's like spoken word over at least the 3 or 4 songs I listened to before I turned it off. I was just going to say, I don't mind the swirl, the soundtrack, the Disney-esque part. Like that could be good, but every song sounded sort of the same. Yeah,
I'm a little underwhelmed as well. And, I'll spend more time with it as it goes on. I always give them the benefit of the doubt because, Deserter Songs is one of the best albums ever made.
That's fair.
And we'll get to that in a few years. I think that was 97. They were a great band, and I appreciate them. I think I know the other band that you're talking about, the other old is new release that came out.
The Lizard.
Yes, not the Lizard Wizard, but a band that was in the Jesus draft, the Jesus Lizard.
I just remembered that. Totally.
I think that was our worst episode.
There's no way that was why'd you think it was our worst episode? I thought it was genius.
All right.
I mean, granted, I haven't listened back to it, but I thought the whole premise was brilliant.
The fantasy football draft with different types of Jesus.
Yes, Jesus built my hot rod.
Yeah, you're my own personal Jesus.
Jesus and Mary Chain.
Yeah, all sorts of Jesus. So anyway, the Jesus Lizard, unlike Mercury Rev, I was very pleasantly surprised with this. This has punch, it has verve, it has excitement. It sounds like, they have the excitement and the energy that they had from the 90s. All
right, I got to give that a listen because I saw it came out today, or say Friday. Yeah, it came out, and I hit it because it was a new song. But I was driving my kids to school, so I listened to the first verse, and I was like, eh.
All right, so this is the Jesus Lizard. The album is called Rack. It came out back on Friday the 13th in September, the most recent Friday the 13th. And I want to say it's their first album in close to a decade, if not longer.
I'm sure.
So their big album is Goat, which I imagine we'll get to very soon because that came out in 1991. And their Lash EP came out in 93. I remember really liking that a lot too. But Jesus Lizard is a thumbs up. Mercury Rev reluctantly is a thumbs down. So 1990, what was going on in 1990? So as I said, 1990, a change was going on in my world. And I think the best way to show that is that my first day of college, before classes start, I remember we had to drive up to the House of Guitars in Rochester with Mark Swazi. And we got Iron Maiden, No Prayer for the Dying, and Queensrÿche, Empire came out. And I was pumped about both of those albums because those were two of my favorite bands at the time. Two bands in, a very different direction at the time. Adrian Smith had left Iron Maiden. No Prayer for the Dying is arguably, you can make an argument it's their worst album, but definitely in the bottom 3 or 4, no matter who's making the list. And Queensrÿche, Empire, that's where they blew up and, became stratospheric rock stars.
Wait, Empire was bigger than the other one?
Operation Mindcrime?
Yeah, that's way bigger. No?
Well, Operation Mindcrime is what got them noticed. Empire is when they blew up. Silent Lucidity, Jet City Woman, all those songs that everyone knows and hates now in hindsight from 35 years. Holy crap.
Wait,
34.
Not 35.
34.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, that's an important year, man. We might need that year.
So, part of me is like, what's happening to metal? So Queensrÿche is kind of going pop. Iron Maiden's not looking so good. Meanwhile, you have Megadeth puts out their best album of all time, Rust in Peace. Judas Priest comes back with Painkiller, which was, one of their best albums. It's my favorite, but I don't know if I'm not the biggest Priest fan, so I don't know if Priest fans agree with me, but Painkiller is my favorite. It's got Travis, a new drummer, that got them all excited. Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer came out, which after South of Heaven in 88, which was okay. Seasons in the Abyss rocked. Title track, of course. Dead Skin Mask, of course. But then Anthrax, Persistence of Time wasn't as good as Among the Living, and it could have gone either way.
I was looking at 90, man. It's like a dead zone for me. There's nothing. I mean, I guess Violator came out by Depeche Mode, but Nine Inch Nails, which came out in 89, that got big in 1990. But there's nothing, man. Yeah, there's nothing. It's a dead zone.
I agree and I disagree with that. So there's a couple things that I still listen to from that era. Primus, Frizzle Fry came out in 1990, and Jane's Addiction, Ritual de lo Habitual with Ben Caught Stealing and 3 Days. That came out in 1990. And
all right.
Yeah, look at the pop songs in 1990.
I did, and then I decided not to even talk about it. I'm the one who's been talking too much about pop, but it was a horrible year, man. It was bad. Literally the best number one song was a Bon Jovi song, and it was from a movie, Blaze of Glory, from the Young Guns soundtrack. Yeah. That was the best number one hit. Oh, Milli Vanilli was like in the top 5.
Yeah.
MC Hammer was in the top 5.
I think Milli Vanilli broke up that year, right? Yeah, Belle Biv DeVoe, Poison.
Oh, dude.
Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You. You know, you got the nice Prince cover there. You had Madonna with the Blonde Ambition tour and her very controversial video for Justify My Love, which, titillated the masses and ruffled the feathers of the conservative consent.
I almost thought this episode should just be like John Cage's 424 or 444 or whatever. 434? Like, we just ship a podcast of silence for 23 minutes. That's how I felt going into this. But you've reminded me about Jane's Addiction, Ritual de la Habitual, which had Stop on it, which I love. Also, I guess Facelift came out by Alice in Chains. You had Louder Than Love by Soundgarden. You had Mookie Blaylock play for the first time ever. Mookie Blaylock is to become Pearl Jam in a subsequent episode.
Yeah.
So,
and you had Demolition Plot J7 by a small band out of Stockton called Pavement.
There's a Pavements movie?
Yes.
I don't quite understand this. It's not a documentary. It's a faux-mentary. What is it?
I think you know as much as me. There are actual actors playing real characters. Like Joe Keery from Stranger Things plays Stephen Malkmus.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Kim Gordon's in it. Tim Heidecker's in it. I think they're in the movie. I think it's almost like a dramatization of Pavement's career, but I feel like it's not nearly 100% true. I think there's a lot of artistic license from what I understand.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's actual real footage in there too. So that's why I'm wondering if it's like they're telling a story. I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
at some point.
Yeah, it's a document. It's listed as a documentary, but I'm not sure how much is truth, how much is fiction, and I don't know. Has it been picked up by a distributor? I don't even know how you can watch it. It exists. That's as far as. Go ahead.
Where's it being shown? Is it not Cannes? Is that one of those other places, right? Was that Venice? It was at a film festival in Europe, I thought.
Yeah. I don't know. It may be out. Look around. I don't know. Pavements movie. If I see it, I'll watch it.
All right. Hold on. Proud Papa alert. There I was, driving my son to school. Or maybe back from school. Or
Were
to
you
the
driving
cross.
a bitch in Camaro?
I wish. But all of a sudden he puts a song on and he starts singing along. It was awesome because the song was Pepas by Farruko, which I've never heard of. I don't even know what Pepas means. But Jasper was singing in Spanish. He's been taking Spanish since he was 4 or 5 or something. And the fact that he was just singing it like it was any other song that he sings, I thought that was pretty cool. So,
all right. So
my son's bilingual.
I thought you were going to say he listened to some cool music, some cool dad rock or new dad rock.
Yeah.
Alas, that's unlikely to happen.
No, he listens to a lot of music. He likes that song "Your Love" by The Outfield or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's because of TikTok, though.
I understand, but it's still he selected that. There's lots of other music he hears that he doesn't select.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's much in 1990 that he's going to select. It was definitely a strange year. I was kind of getting a little bit older, a little bit away from metal, and I was, my alternative days were ahead of me. I didn't become a college radio DJ until 91, but there were definitely things there. And let me tell you, I did not want to listen to Shake Your Moneymaker by the Black Crowes or Ice Ice Baby or Play That Funky Music.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Ice Baby was the first rap song to hit number 1.
Yeah, that's kind of like Metal Health was the first heavy metal song to hit number 1. Quiet Riot, Metal Health. So two things that are just not very representative of the genres that they, being first doesn't mean you're the best.
You hear that? But speaking of first, I think I found album of the year. Have you heard of Chappell Roan? I'm sorry.
Oh, for this year. I thought you were in 1990.
No, dude, there was no. I mean, Ritual wins for me. Maybe Violator. So there's 2 albums I'd put up for 1990. But I put up Chappell Roan this year. You know who Chappell Roan is?
Yeah.
Because you have 3 daughters?
I don't know that they even listen to her, but because 2 of them don't live here anymore. She's just, she's out there. She's the new Lady Gaga, I would say.
Yeah, dude. The album's great. Have you listened to the album?
I've heard some music here and there. I'm not that impressed. To me, it's relatively basic pop music.
I think if you listen to the album as a whole, I actually compared it to Afghan Whig's Gentleman.
Interesting. Okay.
Because both albums are, to me, whole entities. And they're both like the protagonist, one's a man, one's a woman, is kind of like, fuck off to the other sex. I mean, like, it's an emotional relationship type of album, but they're by themselves, sort of. Like, they're trying to understand what's going on, though the music is massively different, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think the Chappell Roan album just reminded me of that, because a lot of the albums touch on relationships and like...
It's no blood on the tracks, I'm guessing.
No, it is not blood on the tracks.
Okay.
Man, dude, she just won the MTV VMA award for Best New Artist. I voted for her, in fact.
Do you have anything else to talk about in 1990?
Not 90, but just in general, I have a gripe. Dude, so you know how I read autobiographies by musicians, and I read this book, Bunny Man, by Will Sargent, who's the guitarist for Echo and the Bunnymen. Okay. Mm-hmm. I thought the book was amazing because it ends before they even do their first album. So it's mostly, I don't know, about him being 16 to 20 or whatever. Cool. Going through the bookstore, see another book. It's called Echoes, A Memoir Continued. I'm like, oh, this is terrific. So I'm reading this book, and it's going through, now they're a band, they have albums, they're touring. I'm getting near the end of the book, and I realize that they haven't even got to Lips Like Sugar yet or something. So apparently, and I go to the website, Will Sargent's website, there's a third book coming out on the Echo and the Bunnymen. So I'm going to have read more books by Echo and the Bunnymen than I have owned their albums. Because I just have to complete it now.
Yeah.
There's something about his writing style that I find very intriguing.
Well,
it's
that's
like
fun.
Yeah, I think he's basically talking and someone's writing it down. I think so.
Or he's doing talk to text or something, or people are asking him questions and they're just putting his thoughts together. Yeah, I read Into the Void, which is named after a song, I want to say from Master of Reality, or is it Volume 4? I always get those 2 albums mixed up. By Geezer Butler, the bassist and lyricist of most of Black Sabbath songs.
Oh.
And I love me the Black Sabbath, though. Those first 5-6 albums, it's just a mood, and it's just amazing. The sounds that, not only Geezer Butler's bass, but the guitar theatrics of Tony Iommi, just amazing. And this is... the reason I brought this up is because this is the second biography. I read Mick Wall's a biography of Black Sabbath, and now this is Terry Geezer Butler's autobiography. So getting a different perspective. And what it made me do was go back and revisit some of the Dio albums. And really, Black Sabbath also has some really bad albums. Their first 5 or 6 are spot on, and then they did 3 with Ronnie James Dio as a singer. But beyond that, if there are 6 other good songs, I'm not sure. And then they, of course, ended on a high note with an album called 13, which was, guess which album number?
13.
No, I think it was their 19th. Made no sense.
Fuck you.
Yeah. But maybe they're only referring to having 13 decent albums. Maybe that's the reason they did it.
Maybe. That's hilarious if it is. Actually, that would work based on your math. Oh, I don't know. Whatever. Oh, my God.
Yeah, so in 1990, Black Sabbath had one of their worst albums. It's called Tyr, Tyr.
It's brutal.
It's like a German folktale, right? Or Scandinavian? I think it's German. But anyway, the band was essentially a Tony Iommi solo album at this point.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
So the 90s. 1990 is inauspicious debut, but I think there's a lot of excitement in the 90s, and it's not just due to our age.
Yeah, you know what it is? Okay, the good music coming out in 1990, I'm not getting because I'm not in college.
Right.
And I don't have an older brother. And maybe some of it's on MTV, but I don't even have MTV in my house. I had to go to Chris's house. So maybe it's more that I might have, been behind the Iron Curtain.
It's definitely a funny place to be, especially as the Berlin Wall came down at the end of '89, and the USSR dissolves in 1990. So there's definitely a strange undercurrent. So it's not just me going from high school, moving out of the house, and going off to college, but music is in a state of flux as well. So the seeds had been laid for a grunge movement that was going to defeat the hair metal and really bad R&B pop that was dominating the airwaves. Meanwhile, metal was going to try. There were a couple last gasps in '90, and there were a couple in the years going forward after that, but the groundwork had been laid and the stage had been set for grunge. And I think in the episodes coming up over the next few years especially, we're going to get into that and the meteoric rise and subsequent fall of the grunge movement.
Did it fall or did it just fade away? Maybe. Maybe. The memories of an old man are the deeds of a young man in his prime.
Yeah, well, this is us in our prime, and for the definition in my head of the new dad rock, this is the era that it comes from. We got a little taste of it with Jane's Addiction, some early Pavement EPs.
I'll give you that.
Primus, Faith No More is in between their two best albums in 1990. So there's a lot good coming. Mookie Blaylock changes up their lineup, becomes Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Mercury Rev, the Jesus Lizard, Jesus Built My Hot Rod. So many things. So many things. All right. Well, thank you for listening to yet another episode of The New Dad Rock. We will be back again. I think we're doing a Halloween episode next week. It's that time of year. But then we'll get on into the 90s. Maybe have some special guests.
Woo!
Maybe play some live music. I don't know.
Play live music? Now we're talking.
I don't know, man.
We'll see. That'd be very cool. I mean, we're a music podcast. We should have some music on it.
Theoretically.
Dude, we should get a live band.
So many things could happen. Thank you, dear listeners. I hope you're there alongside us on our exploits. The New Dad Rock.